We're calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. And actually, we're calling to order the Sewer and Water Commissioners at 5:30 p.m.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So first, we're talking about the next stage reallocation of sewer water rate. And there should be an email in everyone's packet from Pip Bannister.
Are we talking about the co-op first or next stage?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, we're talking about next stage first. I went
Okay.
out of order.
That's okay.
Oh.
So it's a letter from next stage.
They've been closely tracking their water usage.
Yep. So do you want a little history?
Yeah, please, Karen. Thank you.
All right. So back in January, I got a request to change or look at the allocation because they feel like they're being overcharged because right now they're paying a flat rate and they're actually not using a whole lot of water. And they've been kind of tracking it too. Now, they have metered water and sewer is at a flat rate. So I had a conversation with Chris Hayes, he's with Simon's Operations, and he had spoken to Cynthia a few years back, and Josh, you might recall this. And anyone who has metered water should also have metered sewer because water in, water out, and that is based on actual usage, not how many like ERUs, okay? Let me look. Bear with me for a moment and see how many ERUs they have. So right now, for sewer flat rate, they're getting charged 4 units at $164.10 each. Okay. They have 4 water bonds, and then they have 1 meter. So what would happen is the sewer flat rate would change from 4 and go to 1. And it would be based on their water usage. Chris Hayes also said that anyone with water, metered water, should have the sewer meter as well. It just makes more sense.
I thought we couldn't meter sewers. Am I confused on that?
No, it would go through that same water meter.
Oh,
you are
okay.
correct. You are correct that we cannot put a meter on the actual sewer, but
Okay.
it goes through that water meter. So
somebody who has the same number.
Somebody who has a well, Laura, you could put a meter on the well to track the usage of sewer, the amount of sewer usage.
Okay.
So
one of the things that people, can you remind me, what did Chris say the conversation with Cynthia was related to this?
So he said back then he had spoken to her about putting, getting everyone consistent. So anybody with flat rate sewer with metered water, it should be a metered rate. Now he also explained too, and I don't know how this is going to work, but at some point in the future, the select board and I will have to sit down and revisit our policy. Chris explained too that if you have someone like Landmark College, right? So they're all on a flat rate right now. If they were on a metered rate, they would probably be paying more because of the amount of usage up there. So any commercial or multi that has metered water, it would most likely be more money at a lesser rate. So, but the rate, I think we got to relook at the rate too, Josh, and calculate how that would look. Now, I started the process of investigating it, so I cannot tell you right now how many people have metered water and are on a flat rate basis. So until we figure all that out, it's too early to tell.
There's two things that come to mind for me that I think are important related to this. One, I believe our commercial and our residential rates are the same. And you may have already mentioned that, Karen, and I don't know that they should be. Because if somebody has I understand Next Stage is a nonprofit. Obviously, we want to be favorable to them, but at the same time, the system has to be paid for. So, when both of these organizations, Next Stage and the co-op, did their most recent renovations, for Next Stage, that was several years ago. For the co-op, that was more recently. They had to get state permitting based on their size. And so that's what the allocations were based on.
Correct.
So if the state is telling us that's how much they need to have for an allocation, I think that we could choose to or not choose to allow them to go to a metered rate otherwise. And they may well have a legal argument to say, you have to let us be on a metered rate. But as far as the bond is concerned, if the state is telling us this is their minimum requirement, my personal feeling would be perhaps that bond payment route stays the same, but I don't know. That's something I think we need to explore also. The other thing that's important, and I explained this to Pip, for these entities to remember, is that that bond payment is, and the number of ERUs they're based on, is, for all practical purposes, a reservation of that amount of quantity of water allowable to them through our system.
Right.
Right now, we have sufficient water, so that's not a problem. But if we get, more affordable housing moving in down at Putney or at Putney Gateways, and we get 12 more residences built in town over the next X number of years, if they come back and say, hey, you know what, it turns out we really need those 9 ERUs and we don't have them, that's their problem, not ours. So I think we have to be very clear on that risk to them, that if they decrease their usage, then they have also decreased their allocation in our system, and that they are not guaranteed to get that allocation back if their circumstances change. But I also think we need to be clear, and I don't know whether this is ANR or somebody else, but we need to be clear what the implications are from the state. If they're the ones telling us this is how much these organizations need to be allotted for, then I don't think we should change that until we have pretty clear guidance from the state to say, A, we can change that, and B, sort of what the implications of that are if we do. So I guess my feeling with both of these is, without a little bit more information, I would be hesitant to change anything unless you feel confident, Karen, that you know those things. And also that we probably should notify these organizations in writing that information that I just said about it, that then they lose their reservation of that much volume of water should they ever need it. I mean, Next Stage, for example, if they were to go to having shows twice as often, their usage may jump significantly. And if we don't have the water when that happens, we don't have the water. So
Right.
that's part of what the bond payment is paying for that reservation. So we just have to, I think we need to be clear on that, and we need to be clear with them before we make any changes. And I'm not adverse to making changes, but I also do know that, I mean, the co-op being the more, it wasn't clear to me in the next stage letter, and maybe I just missed it. I went through it fairly quickly, what their actual usage is versus I mean, I know they're allocated for ERUs, but was it clear on what their actual usage is? And I just,
No.
I worry that if we're, chopping people's bills down, by very significant amounts based on their usage, where does that financial pressure end up? It ends up on all the other users as well. And again, if these are commercial entities, again, nonprofit might be a different category, but if they're for-profit businesses, then somebody's got to pay those bills. So I just think we need to have more information before we make a decision. But
Okay, let me make a comment. I agree with you, and I'm not prepared to make any changes without looking at this further. If we start changing ERUs, equivalent residential units, so like this one's 4, right? So we drop it down to 1, so that gives us 3 units, right? So we're going to end up with all these ERUs. It drops, like you said, it potentially can drop the amount that we're going to collect. Somebody's going to have to make it up in the end. And I think eventually what's going to happen, Josh, is we're going to have to raise that rate to cover the loan payment.
Yeah. No.
To run.
I think there's no question about that. I think that it's a question also partially, well, again, for the state to help us with guidance on that, but also it's partially a discussion amongst us. I mean, we have always tried when we're making decisions like this to be fair, and I'm happy to be fair. That's our job, but they need to be fair to us too. And just because they're using a fraction of the water that they thought they were going to use doesn't necessarily mean that we should allow them to just pay for a fraction of the water. I mean, maybe, for example, with next stage, maybe we drop it to 2 ERUs and call that good. Or, I don't know how we do that, but I think until this is something that when the policy was designed, I'm not sure it was foreseen, this potential loss of revenue that then increases the cost for everybody else. So
Right. So I think,
but if an organization like Landmark were to switch over to metered, there's a potential, from what you're telling me, there's a potential for them to be paying a considerable amount more into the system. It seems like this is not a really great system. It's not really well balanced. If somebody like Landmark is paying less than what they're actually using, and next stage is, and the co-op are paying more than what they're actually using.
Well, the ERU system is based on an average, essentially, it's average of maximum amount. So many people don't use the amount of water, and especially as toilets get more efficient, so on and so forth. I don't think the state has caught up with that quite yet, but it's a maximum amount. One of the reasons that they do ERUs for municipal systems is because it's actually quite expensive to install a meter. So, I mean, like the meter, I don't know what the meter for Landmark would cost, but it wouldn't be cheap. Next stage and the co-op put those meters in probably when they did their renovations. But the idea with ERUs is that you're taking that burden of the added expense off of a meter on the assumption that they're going to use about an average amount. it's clear that that doesn't necessarily happen going in both directions, as you're pointing out. But I don't know what it would cost for Landmark to meter, but I'll bet it would be a chunk of change.
Right.
Okay. So it sounds like we're nowhere near making a decision on this tonight. We have Tom here, who I am guessing has had a very, very busy day and a really full agenda. Can we close this out? Can we table this and close this out and discuss this when we have more information?
Yeah, I mean,
If you want to, I'm happy to talk with you, Karen, if you want me to help you think through what the exact information we might want to have is before we revisit it. But if you're comfortable, that's fine too. But I'm happy to.
Yeah. So if we table it, it may be tabled for a while. So
Is there a need to come to, I mean, it sounds like we have to table it because we don't have the information we need.
Historically, what we've done in a situation like this is, as of the time that these requests were put in, we will, if we change it, when we change it, we will retroactively adjust the bill accordingly. So if you record these as having been a discussion that started at this time and the request was placed now, even if it ends up being 2 months from now that we make a decision, we will retroactively adjust that financial burden. Or that's what we've done in the past. Not that we have to.
That fits well with me. What do you think of that, David? Oh, David's muted.
You're
muted.
organizer.
Oh, I thought you were. How do
I can't get him unmuted. Hang on. There
Oh,
you are.
here he is. Okay.
Well, he was better
I
on
see
mute.
how I do it. You're with us now, David. Go for it.
Thank you. I would like to know what it means financially to these people, the difference between 4 ERUs and 1 ERU. Is it $100 a month or $1,000 a month? I mean, it seems like the smart thing to do is to keep the system, the whole system, as inexpensive as possible for everybody. How do we do that fairly? I don't know. What's the difference between a nonprofit and a school and a for-profit business? Was any of that thought about when we put the system in place? How do you come up with fair? I don't know the answers to any of those things. I need to know the answers to those things before we decided about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to devote a lot more time to this.
Yeah.
So, and
do a thorough review of the existing policy, to see whether add those. I mean, I've certainly looked at it in the past, but it's been a number of years, to see how it, the policy when it was created was relatively loose, and I believe we updated it, I don't know, 8 years ago or something. I don't remember exactly, but it was pretty loose when it was created because it wasn't 100% clear how it was going to work out. So I think that's, again, in my saying we try to be fair, it's sort of looking at the big picture and the time frame that we're in and seeing what we can do. But I think we should look at that policy, decide whether it's appropriate, and decide whether we agree with it, and then go from there.
okay.
I agree.
Well, can I ask
Do
one
we
more?
want? Yeah, go for it, David.
The next stage, does it have a water meter now, or would we have to put one in?
No, it has a meter.
Yeah, if they're saying they're metered, then they should be metered.
They're metered already, so expense wouldn't be added. Okay. Got it.
And I don't think the expense is ours if they meter, is it?
No.
I thought it was on them.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. So do we want to make a motion? Do we need a motion? I guess, Josh, you would be the best to answer this. Do we need a motion to table this, appointing this as the retroactive date? Should we make any decision regarding?
I think it'll be in the minutes. I don't know, Karen. I don't know whether you have a feeling about that. I mean, I'll make a motion to table it if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and I second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to table this. All in favor? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So Is there a motion to adjourn the sewer water commissioners meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the sewer water commissioners meeting. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, so moved. And now I'm calling to order the select board meeting, the Putney Town Select Board meeting. Sorry?
Vote on that, but
Oh,
didn't actually.
I'm just moving right along here. No. No. It's, thank you. Okay, so it has been moved. Now we're calling to order the select board meeting at 5:51 p.m. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay. The approval of minutes for April 8th and April 15th.
Approve the minutes of April 8th and 15th.
Yep.
And I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I was going to share some notes. We do have a caller on the line. Okay. So I was just going to share how we do this again. We'll start every meeting with introductions of the select board and participating staff. I am Laura Chapman. Oh, sorry, Karen. Go, you're waving.
No, I was going to ask who the caller was, but I guess we'll get to that person in a minute, right?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Laura Chapman, the select board chair.
Josh Laughlin, Select Board Vice Chair.
David Babbitt, Select Board Clerk.
Karen Astley, Town Manager.
Oh, I'll take Alyssa. And
Sorry, I was muted. Alyssa Harlow,
Yeah.
Administrative Assistant.
Tom, you're unmuted.
No, there he goes.
Yeah, I thought I was.
Tom,
And that is Tom Goddard, the everything man.
who's caller one?
This is Lionel Chute from
Hey,
Force for Learning.
Lionel.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So normally the town manager or myself, I guess in this case, will mute all participants with the exception of the select board and the town manager. All participants should send a message in the chat app if they would like to speak. The mic will always be handed to select board members first and the town manager first. Public comment will be during the following times: the agenda item public comment on items not on the agenda, discussion on any moved agenda item, and the agenda item other business. Depending on time and participation, public comments may be limited. Please state your name before making comments. Video is encouraged if you are able. The easiest way to share your webcam is to click the button on the Grab tab, or you can click the Share My Webcam button on the control panel. And if you are unable to attend a meeting and would like to have a comment submitted, email it to myself or Karen, and we will read it during public comment on items not on the agenda. So moving on, public comment on items not on the agenda. Karen, I don't know how to monitor the chat app because you just made me an organizer and I've never done that.
Do you have a little chat icon up top?
I don't see it.
No?
Typically, if somebody puts something, they direct it to you and it just pops up on your screen. I could try that, Laura, just so you.
Yeah, just to make sure it works. Thank you. And I'm going to unmute Lionel just to make sure he doesn't have a public comment.
I don't see one from him.
Okay. Oh, here, I got it. Okay, we're good. Thank you. I got one from Karen. No. All right. So we're moving on to select board items. We have the local emergency management plan adoption from Tom Goddard. and everybody should have received this from Karen in many, many, many links.
Yeah. How come I can't unmute Tom. Tom, can you unmute yourself?
Let me try.
How's that?
Oh, there he is.
You're good.
That's good. It's weird. I just can't unmute people. I can mute them, but
Huh.
So,
right.
the document that each of you received is in fact what is our draft 2020 LEMP. By May 1st, we have to have that submitted to the Wyndham Regional Commission, who then forwards it to the state of Vermont Emergency Management, and then it's recorded officially. As long as they approve it, it's recorded officially for FEMA. So not only does that, again, just to review, not only does that plan certainly provide us with some framework and guidance during a large scale event or a long duration event, but it also, as long as it's fully approved by the state and submitted to FEMA, it keeps us in line with the ability to receive federal funds from FEMA should that come about. So this year there haven't been that many updates to the plan. There's been a few, again, just to keep us in line with where we need to be. So I'm asking that you folks approve the document as it stands for submittal, and then Laura will have to sign it, as well as Karen, and then we'll get things submitted.
So
All
moved.
right.
Okay.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I have a few questions. They're really quick questions, I promise. So looking at the available equipment computers, I'm just curious how old your computers are. Like, when was the last time they were serviced, updated? How?
They range from literally brand new, a couple weeks old, to 3 years old.
Okay. And your printer, copier, faxer, does it have wireless function?
It does
It says
not.
that it's hardwired.
It's all
Okay.
that's hardwired.
Okay. And then looking at the Emergency Operations Center, and obviously I have a few new questions based on current circumstances. The operations section, planning section, logistics section, finance admin, I believe the finance admin's already been outlined in here, but and the safety and awareness coordinator, do you have people in mind for these already? Have these positions been filled under our current circumstances, or do you have someone waiting in the wings should circumstances get worse and you need to?
Yeah, those will be filled should we need to.
Okay. Do you have people, but do you already have people in mind for that? Yep. And do they know who they are?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not a requirement, Tom, to have those spots filled until they're necessary.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Well, only if we find we would need to, and that would be based upon volume of work being done. Excuse me.
Under hazard analysis, this is more of a comment than anything. In the infectious disease emergency, the economic impacts and the environmental impacts are put down as a 1, and I found that really interesting, and not fully understanding the scale, how it's utilized. I guess I can't make a whole lot of judgment, but it seems like the economic impacts that we are likely going to be facing from COVID probably weren't more than a 1.
Well, you're absolutely right. That was always I hate to use the word, but a generic, if you will, over the years, because honestly, because it had never happened, we'd never experienced it.
Yeah.
So now we are experiencing it, and that will be modified.
It'll be adjusted, and the environmental impacts are probably going the other way.
Exactly.
Depending on how you look at it, I guess.
Right.
And then in the Putney Emergency Management Event Matrix, which I have to say, this document is amazing. Every year that I've looked at it, I've been more like in awe of the work that you do. In this checklist, have you been using this checklist? I imagine you're using this checklist actively. Where do you feel like you're at in it?
Honestly, after the first couple weeks, we haven't used that because everything's just naturally been in place.
Okay.
At this point, we're still in the response section, in the response mode,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously approaching the recovery mode. But no, that checklist, if you will, that matrix is more of a. It certainly is applicable in a situation like this, but that's more geared toward an event that's coming about very, very quickly or
Mm-hmm.
without any warning at all.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we don't forget anything.
Yeah. I had marked off the continuity of government plan. There were a few, the lack of predetermined successors to key municipal leadership and governor positions could create a significant degree of confusion and seriously affect the ability of municipal governors to make timely decisions when such decisions would be most necessary. It made me really think about, like, what does it look like if something were to happen to everybody on the select board? How do we?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing, Josh, you would probably have more input on this, but
it's really just an appointment process, and I mean we certainly could talk about that and talk about specific individuals that we would invite to do that if necessary. But I think, not having had to do that before, I'm, the odds of something happening to all three of us at once, I would think, are pretty low. But thinking about some sort of succession in the event of an emergency would not be a bad idea. I mean, I think that, historically how we've sort of thought about it and looked at it is that, there are those members of the community who clearly are better informed, more involved in things as it is, and they are the likely people we would approach if it were necessary. And we can certainly talk more about that. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to at least touch base with some people. I think that previous select board members often come up on a list. Just, to be able to jump in and not have a big learning curve is helpful. But certainly there are other, and Karen might have input on that as well, but certainly certain community members are just, I think it would be a process of decision in the moment. Wait, what do we need and why? Okay, who's the best person for that?
And there is a list developed that's going to be brought to you soon. And in reality, it would be much nicer to be able to, if we can, at whatever point we transition back to actual meetings in the same room. It would be nice to go over it then, but like Josh said, that list includes former select board members, former listers, some citizens who have worked in town hall in the past, or certainly could transition into town hall roles very, very easily. So, but we'll talk about those more.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate that. And then I'm curious, there's a section missing from this.
Yes.
Enclosure 8.
Yep. And that's because that's protected information. What's in that portion of the document is all protected information. It's not public.
Okay. Is that something that could be shared with us during an executive session, or can you elaborate on that in any way?
Yep.
Okay.
If it's not appropriate, that's fine. Yeah, as Laura said, can you elaborate on that in any way?
Absolutely. It's our vulnerable population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, is there any other discussion?
I just have some there's some minor typos, Tom.
Okay,
So, and some are right on the signature page.
okay,
Oh,
We probably want to correct those. So
yeah,
we have,
absolutely.
yeah, we have,
We can get, all right, we can get together on them.
all right,
That won't be a problem.
all right.
Great.
And my second question is, there is a form in here, Town of Putney Emergency EMD Delegation of Authority. So signature of Chief Executive Officer or Chief Elected Official, is that something the Select Board signs off on?
No, that's within the document.
Correct. It's this
Or
one,
that's
right?
within the plan.
I don't know if you can see it.
No. No, that would be for use during an actual incident.
Okay.
During an event. And the answer is yes, the select board, the most senior select board member would sign that.
Okay, just stays in the document.
That's right.
Okay.
So
all I-
Karen, are you concerned? Can we go ahead and vote to approve this with the necessary typos corrected, or are they egregious enough so you're concerned we need to correct them before we vote on it?
No, you can vote on it, and then we'll make the corrections, and it'll be good to be. She can sign it, and I'll have to sign it.
I will just amend my motion to approve the LEMP with the appropriate corrections.
And I'll second that.
okay. So it's been moved and seconded to amend the original motion to approve the LEMP with corrections to the signature page. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's been passed. So, and now we're going to get an emergency management preparedness update from Tom.
In reality, nothing has changed for us since last week. We're doing the same things. We're still, again, it certainly continues to appear that statewide we're plateauing and flattening out. So that's all good. And it's simply a case where we see what the governor does as far as opening things back up. And hopefully we don't have a second spike. But as far as our responses are concerned, as far as everything else goes, there's absolutely no change in the last week.
Do you want to offer an opinion, Tom, about whether, I mean, obviously we would follow the direction of the governor, but if we have the option to open up things a little bit more sooner rather than later, do you have an opinion about that?
I think if we were to do that, I think if any community were to do that, I think it would be, first off, disrespectful toward the governor, and what he's charged with, and what he and his cabinet are truly trying to do. And I think if we went rogue on our own and something bad came of it, that wouldn't set well for any of us.
Yeah, no, I must have misstated my question, because my question was we would adhere to the governor's recommendation, but would you have any opinion on whether, for example, if the governor were to say municipalities can open up their municipal buildings if they choose, would you rather we wait on that or don't wait on? I mean, I don't know. I'm saying sort of the opposite of I think how you heard.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I did misunderstand your question. No, if the governor's given the clearance to begin to do things, at face value, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to follow suit. obviously we'd have to take a look at things and if something was there that said we might not want to do this right now, then certainly we have a discussion about it. But at face value, to follow the governor's orders, that would be fine.
I can kind of imagine, though, a scenario like what you're talking about, Josh, where the governor puts out because we have such varying populations throughout the state and some areas are more rural than others. I can imagine him saying something along the lines of, depending on your particular circumstances in your community, your numbers, you can make a decision. And I would think that we would probably heavily lean on you, Tom, to decide, to influence our decisions on that if that were to happen.
Okay, that would be fine. Certainly, we'd have some discussions about things. Yeah.
Tom, I don't know. I haven't heard the governor's. I haven't heard the last couple statements from the governor. As far as testing in the state is concerned, and I would think, to your point, Laura, guiding any decisions of that kind of thing, increased testing, I would think, would be necessary to make well-informed decisions. Do you have a sense, Tom, of where that's headed for the state and or for localities?
I don't. I know it's being talked about. I don't know where it's headed. And one thing that people are also talking about is, yes, we can, or any state, any state in the country can increase testing. A big issue that would come about would be you could test person A today,
right,
and it would be negative. Tomorrow they're positive.
Right.
So it's like just how much testing is going to be done, and I don't know the answers to that. Again, I know, just like everyone else, more testing is being looked at. Widespread testing is being looked at. I don't know the logistics of it. I don't know operationally how it would be done. If as we get more information on that, or more information is put across to us on that, then certainly we'll keep everybody updated.
I know they've started some strategic testing too, like Thompson House is being tested, the whole facility.
Right. They had an individual there who was unfortunately infected. So now they'll go in, and that's been standard for the most part after a couple of specific other cases in the state. Now they're going to go in and test everybody.
Is there any talk about test for the antigen and not for COVID-19? The information that would give us to see who has already had it? Is there any?
I know the question has been posed to the health department. There wasn't a clear answer given to that because there's still so much that's unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding is accuracy in those is a real issue because of the, and I don't fully understand the science behind it, but from what I heard last time I heard something about this on VPR, it has to do with the actual population of people that have already had it. So we don't have the numbers to like compare to, and therefore it lowers the accuracy rate of the antigen testing.
Yeah, it's just not a large enough body of data to be able to accurately assess the accuracy of it. The other thing that comes into that is that they're not 100% sure yet, or not. I'm not even sure they're any percent sure that having the antigen necessarily assures any level of actual immunity. And I think they're still working hard on that to figure that out. We may not know that for quite a while for exactly the same reason you're talking about, Laura. It's just there's not enough data until you see a whole bunch of people get sick a second time, or you see that nobody is getting sick a second time. But in order to have enough data to make that accurate, that's a ways off.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Tom?
How you feeling?
Yeah.
Tired, but holding my own. Everything's good.
So Tom, do you want to announce you made a shift in your department or? Not a shift.
Yeah, I can. In order to improve things across the board, we've held vacant a captain's position, which was an individual in charge of the EMS division of the department. And we recently filled that position. So Chris Pennell he's an advanced EMT with the department, considerable amount of experience, knowledge base. So he was actually promoted to fill that position. So that'll be very good for us moving forward.
Chris who?
Chris Fennell.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Congratulations to Chris.
Yes.
And to our town. Hey, anything else for Tom?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, folks. All right.
Thank you very much, Tom. You too.
All right. All right.
All right, so we are moving on to the Forest for Learning property transfer, and I'm assuming that's why Lionel is with us.
But
Yes, that's true.
So,
so this is ready to go, according to Larry Slyson. So we need to have a date for a closing.
okay.
So basically, for everyone to know, it's the 4.11 acres that was adjacent to the pool, plus the school forest that we had a purchase and sale for. What was it, 2 years ago, Lionel?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So both are going to be transferred to Forest for Learning. The survey has been recorded with the town of Putney, so we're all set there. There is no property transfer tax value because it's property owned by the town and transferring to Forest for Learning.
Do we want to put forth a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve I can't change screens to bring it up, so I might not have all the language, but I will make a motion that we approve the transfer of properties, both the aforementioned properties from the town of Putney to the Forest for Learning. And before I actually move that, are those now one entity, Lionel, or are they still two separate properties?
I get it off.
Get what off? Hello, are we there?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, so you're
Great. It's going to be one property. It's all we're doing is we did a lot line adjustment where we added the wet meadow right in front of where the kiosk is.
Yep.
We just brought that as part of the property as well, and there's no point in Forest for Learning treating that as two different properties. It's really all just one property.
I guess my question to clarify is, for the purposes of our motion at this time, is it recognized as a single property now, or is it still recognized as two separate properties?
It's recognized as a single property because it was a boundary line adjustment. And so
Okay.
It was we've gone through the whole process, and it is one property right now.
Okay, so I will restate my motion to say I would like to move that we approve the transfer of the property belonging to the town of Putney that we've been holding for the last 2 years to the Forest for Learning.
And I'll second that.
Is that sufficient, Karen?
Yeah, I just want to mention that the forest is a total of 167 4.7 acres.
That was breaking up. Lionel, you got quite a bit of noise coming through on your end.
I'm trying to.
I'm sorry. Is it any better? We're trying to drive to Brattleboro.
I just muted Lionel. So, Josh, I want to clarify that the forest property is 167.7 acres, and then the pool property is 4.11. So right now it's two properties merging together as one in the
Right. But that's what I was just asking Lionel to clarify, is that has already occurred.
And in this quitclaim deed, it says it's 163.6 acre forest land and a 4.11 acre parcel for the adjacent town pool lot.
So it'd be a total of 167.7 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, Laura. I was looking for that, and it's like, it's got to be buried in here somewhere. But
so do you want to just unmute Lionel for a moment to make sure he agrees with that?
sure.
Yeah.
I
think I did it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. The quitclaim deed takes into account the additional 4.11 acres. So I believe the total amount, and also the boundary line adjustment, the DRB's ruling over the boundary line adjustment also references that total number as well. So as far as I know, I think it is 167 point something. I'm sorry, I'm not in front of my computer.
167.7.
Correct. And I have to agree with that statement.
Okay.
And
so I think
the Schedule A does, I'm sorry, Josh, the Schedule A does actually say containing 167.7. So I think we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So Josh, both parcels are going to be transferred in this one deed.
Right. So that was the nature of my motion. My motion was to approve the transfer of the parcel from the town to the Forest for Learning.
Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded, and we've had some discussion. Is there any more discussion? So the only thing I'm going to point out, because I am that woman, is that this quitclaim deed starts with "know all men" by these presents. And in the future, I would really love to see gender neutral paperwork. No.
I don't know if you can change that. I think that is just the language that's.
I'm not. I'm just saying. It doesn't have to be changed. I'm just saying for.
I think that if it can be changed, it should be, though. I would agree with that, and I don't think we need to have that in the motion, but I think it should be reflected in the minutes that we would like to see that changed if possible. I don't know where that document was generated, but I totally agree with you, Laura. That's pretty offensive, really. It should just say all persons.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Should say all persons. Yep.
Something we can ask the attorneys, right?
Yeah. So I am willing to sign it as it stands, just because I recognize that we're going through changes as a society and these things are going to keep coming up. But as long as we're recognizing it and in the future being more aware of it, I'm okay. I'm okay signing it as it stands. I hear you, Josh, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, and I think if it can be, yeah, I mean, I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm sign it too, but I would like to see the document amended if that's not unreasonable at this time. I mean, if it's
I don't want to hold anything up.
Yeah, and if it's $600 worth of work to get it changed, I'm not sure it's worth it. But if it's a matter of somebody printing a new one before Laura or whoever is officially signing it, I would be in favor of that.
Can I comment that the signature page is on the second page, so we might be able to get that one word changed.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded and it's been discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion has been passed. Sorry, I'm not at my normal state. All right, here we go. So we are moving on to, go ahead.
Before we move on, I just want to say thank you to Lionel for all his work, because I know he has put a lot of time and effort into this, and I think this is a win for everybody. So thanks, Lionel, for the work you've done on it, and others, Karen included, I'm sure, and those who have made this happen. I think it's a good thing for all of us.
Agreed. Thank you, Josh. It's actually pretty amazing to see this coming to a close.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 years total for the whole process.
Right. So when do you want to schedule a closing, Laura?
I can I can do that this week, I'm sure. Tomorrow or Friday, if that works for you.
Now, how about Monday?
Monday could work. Do you want me to just get in touch with you tomorrow to schedule it, or does it need to be scheduled now?
No, it doesn't need to be scheduled now because I need to talk to Lionel too to make sure that we can line everything up.
Okay.
Karen, was it inherent in the motion that we approved that Laura would sign it, or do we need a motion to approve her for that?
I think.
It's in the document.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Yeah, Monday's pretty good for me. Oh,
We should probably have that changed too, Laura.
what's that?
On the signature page, it says chairman.
I didn't even notice that one. I get.
I'll accept a friendly amendment.
So I'll work with Larry on getting a couple things revised.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
let's shoot for next week for a closing. You and I and Lionel can coordinate together.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So we are moving on to rules of procedure, policy, paper of record, and attorney of record approval. And this is some housekeeping that we normally would have done.
Yes.
It's weeks ago, but just because of circumstance, it's been delayed. So in your packets, there should have been a rules of procedure for Putney Selectboard. And this came from something that I checked into after you pointed something out to me, Josh, was how strictly are we supposed to be adhering to Robert's rules? And I went into our handbook and actually found that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns recommends that we don't use Robert's rules as our rules and procedure for our meetings. That's their recommendation to select boards and committees, that they adopt this standard that they've put out. So Karen updated it for us, and I've reviewed it. The only thing I'm going to say again, Karen, is that there's a lot of gendered language in this, and I would love to see, instead of his and hers, or he and she, their and them,
Okay.
just to reflect the possibility that not everybody serving on this board at any time may identify as any gender.
All right. I can make those changes.
So did everybody have a chance to review this?
I did not. I had missed it. So I mean, if we want to go ahead and do it, and others have reviewed it and they're comfortable, I'm fine with abstaining from that vote. Or if I can't bring up two screens at once, so I can't really look at it right now.
So I'm really comfortable. I think that we we function pretty well, all things considered. And so I'm comfortable tabling this for our next meeting if you want to take time to review it. It's 3 pages, and then I think we could discuss it at our next meeting.
That'd be good. Thank you.
I'd like to table it too. I'm actually looking it over right now. I did once before, but I'd like to read it more.
Okay. And it's something very similar, if not exactly the same, can also be found in the back of our handbook. So, all right. Well, then, paper of record. Normally, we have gone with the Brattleboro Reformer, and we've had some discussion about changing that at times. It's the last 2 years, at least, that I've been on. I know it's come up. The thought about changing it to the Commons. I know that the reasoning behind the Brattleboro Reformer is it's an everyday print, which makes it, if there's a need to warn in a really, in a way that wouldn't work on the Wednesday print, that's been part of the decision-making process behind it. I will put in a pitch that I feel pretty strongly that the Commons is available to everyone, and so it feels like it's maybe more equitable to our community to have access to that. I don't have.
I think the language, and I can't remember whether you were part of this discussion or not, Laura, but that we've used in the past when we've been talking about that, this is to have the Brattleboro Reformer be our official paper of record, but to make all reasonable efforts we can to include the information in the Commons as well. For exactly that reason, that essentially, the wider we can distribute the information, the better. And when it comes to equity, also, I think that's a good observation as well. So I think we could, whether we move it that way or whether we just have that as included in the minutes.
Karen.
So I want to make a comment. I know Westminster uses the Commons, and the Brattleboro Reformer is expensive. And I have to use them for legal notices for like Development Review Board. I have to use it for, putting out bids for projects and stuff like that. So it is costly, but to do 2 papers, it would cost more money. And I will let you know that the Commons is less expensive for what I'm sending to Brattleboro. So our legal ads would be less expensive in the Commons. So, and we can get on their schedule because Westminster makes it work. So I'm not considering them.
Okay. I really like the idea of supporting a community newspaper like the Commons, and knowing that actually makes a big difference to me, knowing that we would be paying into them where we might not have been in the past.
I certainly don't object to that. I think it's the question of timeliness. If you're comfortable with that, Karen, I guess the other thing that I would say, and I have no idea, is readership numbers. And I also am very aware that in the current circumstances, newspaper readership is shifting rapidly. And so I don't know whether, I have no idea whether even if we had the data on readership, it would be even remotely accurate now compared to 6 weeks ago. But I don't have a problem with it being the Commons as long as you're confident, Karen, that you can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
David, does this, you realize we are obligated to have a newspaper of record? So we just have to be clear about that.
I think if they both provide the same service and it doesn't cause any problems for you, Karen, we should go with the one that costs less, and feels better to everybody. And seems like Laura has it's important to her that we support that paper. Frankly, I don't read either one of them very often, so I don't really have an opinion. But I certainly think if you can get the job done with the less expensive one, go with the less expensive one.
Right. Laura, the Commons is online as well too, right?
It is, and I want to point out that the Commons actually distributed in the first week of the COVID crisis, they sent their paper out through the mail to every post. If I'm remembering this correctly, it was every post box in Windham County, but it could have been a smaller area than that. But if I'm remembering correctly, it was every, and that's kind of the importance behind a community paper to me, that's the kind of thing a community paper does.
Right.
So
yeah, my last comment about the newspaper is, from my experience in Westminster, if we did not meet the deadline for the Commons, we were able to put it into the Brattleboro Reformer. So we have a backup plan.
What's the difference in money? Like you say, it's much less expensive. What is that?
So when I run like a development review board, depending on how many applications I have, it's close to $200 every time I run an ad, for a legal notice. So, and I know the Commons, the Commons is a lot less. It's probably not half, but you do save probably $50 every time you run something. So you will save money with the Commons.
And on average, how many ads do you run, say, in a year? Just
I can do as many as 12, and then if I have to add Selectboard legal notices, we're over budget right now on our advertising in the newspapers.
Depends on how many hires we have. It depends on, tax sales. It depends. There's a lot of variables that have legal posting requirements in a paper. So that I would say that varies quite a bit year to year.
Right.
It could be as many as a couple dozen, and you're saving $50 a shot or more.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's a
lot of money.
Yeah. Yes. Especially now when things are so uncertain. Any way that we can get the good enough service for less money, that's a good thing. Yep.
Let's see. So I don't mind shifting to the Commons because I know we can make it work.
Is there anything else that we should consider? I have no experience with this, but does the Reformer provide us any service besides this that not using them in this way would be detrimental to us? Do they do anything else for us, Josh or Laura, that I don't know about?
Karen will have to answer that. Sorry.
No, again, I mean, if we wanted to be as thorough as we could be, probably knowing readership numbers would be helpful for that. But again, I just can't imagine that the readership of the Reformer is going to be the same, or either of them for that matter. But the fact that the Commons, I think, I mean, not that the Reformer isn't online, and I don't know if there's public announcements, you may not have to have a subscription to see them. I don't know. I mean, we could put this off and gather all the data about it if we want to, so we know what the cost difference is and what the readerships are. But I'm open to going with the recommendation of going to the Commons as long as the confidence level is fairly high that it will save us money and that we have reasonably complete coverage.
I think readership would be a hard thing to fully assess because the Commons distributes for free. So, they do drop-offs in widely visited areas, and people pick it up and read it that way. And then they also read online. So that may be easier to track. but I think it would be hard to compare them apples to apples.
I agree, especially a weekly versus a daily. I don't know. I know that's been part of the discussion in the past, but I have no idea how those numbers look. So, and I'm not sure there's any reasonable way to assess it. But.
Okay.
So do you want a motion or do you want to wait on it, Laura?
I think as long as Karen's comfortable and feels good about this, then I think we should make a motion. So I'm going to throw the ball into your court, Karen.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable that we can make it work. And like I said, it's, we have a backup with the reformer. So.
Okay. I can't remember. There was one other part on the agenda, the list. It was approval of paper of record and
attorney of record.
Oh, okay. So that's separate. So, okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the Commons as our newspaper of record.
And I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? No? All right. So it's been moved and seconded to make the Commons our paper of record for the town of Putney. And hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's been passed.
And I will make a motion to approve Salmon and Nostrand as our attorneys of record. I don't think it needs to be specific to Larry. Would you agree, Karen?
I agree.
So Salmon and Nostrand as our attorneys of record. I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Salmond and Nostrand as our attorneys of record for the town of Putney. Any discussion? I guess my only question is there any reason to consider anybody else at this point?
No.
Okay.
And may I also add that our, so Salmon and Nostrand is primary legal counsel, with Robert Fisher being a secondary if there's a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Do you think that needs to be in the motion? I don't think it does, right?
I think it should be. Just
okay. So,
yep.
So I'll withdraw my first motion and make a second motion to approve Salmon and Nostrand as our attorneys of record and Bob Fisher as our backup attorney of record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'll second that. Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I think just the one thing I would say is that, Larry, they give us a pretty good deal, or a very good deal, I think. And that idea of considering somebody else, I don't think it's unreasonable that we would consider somebody else, and maybe at some point we might want to do that. But we've been with them. I mean, it goes back as long as I can remember. Richard Coutant, who was a member of that firm previously, and since passed away, but they've been doing our legal for a long time, and just having the historical knowledge is very helpful for us, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Any further discussion? So it's been moved and seconded for Salmon and Nostrand to be our attorney of record and Bob Fisher to be our alternate should there be any conflict of interest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yard sales. This came up to me from a couple of concerned residents that have noted that they're already hearing discussion from people regarding potential yard sales coming up quite soon, from what I understand. And I was asked if I could bring it up to the board that maybe we should consider a yard sale ban this summer, or at least for the time being as a town. So new territory for me. I don't even, it's,
I've looked for a policy or ordinance on yard sales, and I wasn't able to find anything.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one. I would have to guess that I don't know whether you looked in any information from the governor's office, Karen, because I would imagine that if they haven't addressed that yet, they probably will pretty soon. But
Right.
I don't I don't know whether I don't know what our legal rights are as far as that's concerned. I guess my feeling would be we probably should check with VLCT before we make that decision.
Okay.
I'm certainly not opposed to it, but I would be interested to see what VLCT had to say and/or the governor's office. I mean, I'd be amazed if they aren't, or the Secretary of Commerce office. I'm not sure. I'd be amazed if they aren't thinking about this, but it may be premature and it'll hit the radar pretty soon. I don't know. But
maybe by us bringing up the question, it'll hit the radar.
Yeah. No, and you know, my only concern is that in these challenging times, taking any way for somebody to generate income away from them is unfortunate, but I understand the logic behind it. So I guess it would be my preference to let somebody at a higher level make that decision if we could encourage them to. But I think we'll find out what we can find out and then decide from there.
Yeah.
So, Laura, are you just talking about during the COVID crisis, or?
Yes, not permanently, but yes, just during this crisis, there is a concern that people are going to go ahead and do it, and that we as a town should make some kind of statement on that. And I'm not, Josh, as you said, I really don't know. It's never been on my radar. It's not something I've thought about before, but I do think it's something that we should bring up and explore further.
So, Laura, I'm in weekly meetings with different groups,
Mm-hmm.
and I might be able to ask that question because maybe it's been asked already, but maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm finding out that if they don't have answers, they get them to us like
Pretty quickly. Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So let me investigate a little further. I'll start with VLCT, and then I do use Michael Maricki sometimes too,
Mm-hmm.
because he's a point of contact that might get, an answer quicker too.
Yeah.
I just pulled up Vermont yard sale law during COVID, and I've got nothing specific here. I got conflicting information from two different places. One saying that it's legal to have them as long as you observe social distancing, and another one saying it's not legal to have them during COVID. So I don't know. Anyway. So.
Well, I mean, I think you'd have to be able to assure that you don't have a gathering, that goes outside of the governor's mandate, and how can you assure that during how can we rely on private citizens to make sure that they're assuring that every time? So it's
also, I would have a hard time imagining that it would be considered an essential function, but I again, if it generates income, I don't know. So yeah, we should find out. And given that we're meeting again in a week, I think, maybe there will be a spate of them this weekend, but I sort of doubt it. And if so, then we find out the following week.
Yeah. And I'll just take a moment to encourage folks that have the accessibility to use online mediums to sell their goods and do that in a safe way that has no contact, rather than bringing people to their home, which could be dangerous for them and for those people.
I was wondering, it makes me think about the farmers market rules that they're working on still, and I'm wondering if this isn't falling under that category too, if they're thinking about that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
And,
Yeah, although
and it,
the difference again to me would be essential versus non-essential. I mean, you
yeah.
know, food acquisition is obviously essential. Acquisition of yard goods is not necessarily. So
Mm.
It's only essential, and it's probably one of my favorite extracurricular things to do in life is to go yard sailing. I just absolutely, which is
I would think there would be those that would debate. Well, and actually, I mean, the other point that it raises for me is, you know, I don't know. For example, there's that property up on 5 just south of the Putney Westminster border, and I don't know whether that's technically a business or technically a yard sale. And if it's a business and it's a primary source of income, I don't know, a little tricky. I do since I mentioned that property though, I do have to say it does sort of fall in the same lines as another piece of property that we've been having a discussion about. There,
Oh yeah.
you know the one that I'm talking about, Karen, on 5 just south of the 91 overpass
Yes.
on the right. Basically across from just north of Santa's Land.
Yes.
It has some similar features to the property just north of town of Putney, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And it looks like Cynthia was keeping an eye on that. So that's a potential zoning violation.
Yeah.
So,
No, and actually, I mean that would highlight perhaps for us the importance. I mean, one could probably argue that that is a yard sale and therefore would not necessarily fall under zoning. But if without an ordinance to clarify what a yard sale looks like and its duration and things like that, it would be hard for us to argue the opposite. So that's something we might want to explore. And in fact, if you're gonna call VLCT, see whether they have a yard sale ordinance document that they recommend. We could at least have a look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
Good discussion. So I feel comfortable moving on. Does everyone else?
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Putney public pool discussion.
All right, so I wanted to put this on there thinking about the future and trying to be optimistic, after May 15th, hopefully. So Alyssa and I met with Katie and Beverly. So Katie does the swim lessons and Bev, gets all the lifeguards in the pool pulled together. At this time, we're usually doing swim lesson registration. And because there's no school until, June, and that's when the pool opens up, usually right after the kids get out of school. My intent is to be optimistic and plan to open the pool, but I have a question to Michael Maricki, who is going to go to the governor's office regarding what is the criteria for public pools. Now, if we sit on this and wait, and then the governor says, yep, so restrictions have been lifted, we can have general swim, you can have your swim lessons, the camps are open. See, that's the thing. So summer camps are not open right now. We're limited to small groups, possibly of maybe 10. So when you have swim lessons, you have parents, you have other children. General swim is going to be out of the question if you can only have a small group. I want to prepare the pool, but there's a possibility that we may not be able to open it. So I'm curious what everyone's thinking about the pool.
I personally think the steps that you're taking are the right steps. There's no way for us to really know how this is going to play out. My guess is based on the approach that he's taken thus far. We may not have a pool this summer, and I'm really grateful to you for doing the prep work in case there's a possibility of us having a pool this summer.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
Besides the paperwork and the communication to prepare getting ready to go, what does it cost for us to actually prepare the pool? Are we under contract for that already, and we're paying for it already for them to come in and shock it and do the chemicals and make sure the filters and pumps all work? Or do we, if we find out we're not going to have the pool functioning, do we save the cost of not doing that?
So Joe, who works for Simon's Operations, has always drained the pool in the fall, and he gets it ready in the spring. So he does all the chemicals, he does the shocking, he opens the pool up. So there is no extra cost, David.
Okay, all right.
There is an issue with the pool right now, again. So the ramp leading into the pool, so it has this fiberglass skin on it. Last year there was a crack in it, and Tim Carrillo had helped Joe repair that crack. Now, because of our winters being cold, and then it warms up and it thaws out, and then it gets cold again, everything freezes, and then it warms up again, there is another crack on that ramp, and it's worse than last year. So I went ahead and I called Tim, and I had Tim work with Joe on it to determine how to repair it and see what it's going to cost. Now, Tim has not gotten back to me because all this just happened this week. I haven't been up to the pool. I should go look at it and then talk to Tim and come back to you, but the pool is going to need some money. I think it's been overlooked for several years now, but if we want to maintain it, we're going to have to put some money into that pool. And people enjoy it. You know, the kids enjoy it. It's a good asset for the community.
It really is.
Who is Tim, Karen?
Tim Carrillo has his own pool company.
Okay.
And he and Joe went to school together. So
okay. I was wondering whether it was a fiberglass repair guy or a pool company guy, and I think having a pool company guy is probably appropriate. You know, the one thing I'd say overall, I agree that proceeding as you are makes sense. The only thing I would be cautious about is not entering into any contractual agreements that are going to, I think any contractual agreements need to be, you know, I'm blanking on the term, but that we are not obligated unless the pool is open, conditional on the pool opening. So, I mean, you know, for example, with Beverly, much as I would like to be able to hire Beverly and say, yes, definitely go ahead, this is what we want, I think we should be cautious about spending money on something that we aren't likely. So maybe we could do, you know, in preparation, do per diem with her or something that is fair compensation for work that she does, but doesn't obligate us for a longer period of time than we need.
okay. So I called Brattleboro Carol a lot. She's in charge of the rec department. They're going to proceed ahead too, and they're going to do interviews for lifeguards. They're not even going to have a start date. It's a tentative job with a date to be determined.
Yeah.
And it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're going to approach it. You know, if we don't have the camps, if we do not have the summer camps at the pool, that's like $1,000 of revenue. So we'll be relying on swim lessons, which is 6 weeks, and those could be pushed back as well. So, you know, she usually starts in July. So if we're looking at August, you know, she may be able to consolidate her groups, but it's going to be a short time period for the pool. So we may not make money on the pool this year. We don't make money anyway, just to let you know and be honest, we do not make money on that pool. So if we're okay knowing that, I mean, we still might have a short summer, but
I don't know that we ever looked at the pool as a big money maker. I mean, I think that it's like having a town park.
Right.
In fact, maybe it's better than having a town park, because I think the pool normally comes close to breaking even, correct? Where a town park might cost us. No, doesn't break even.
it depends. You know, it's
not a huge number in the hole, though. I mean, in my recollection, we've never profited from it, but we've never lost a fortune either.
No, we haven't lost a fortune, but
I think of it as an asset. I don't think of it as a money maker. But yeah.
No, and I you know, it's possible, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, I think that our single largest expense is employment.
Correct.
It's possible that a short season might actually work in our favor in that sense. And you know, not that we're looking for it to work in our favor, but it might prevent us from losing more than might otherwise. So.
Right. So, I mean, again, I want to move forward opening the pool, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I am hopeful. I did see some really controversial information coming out of New York with their pools closing. The concern about kiddos and families using swimming holes that maybe weren't appropriate, and more accidents happening because of you know, people having to find ways to cool down and using inappropriate places to do so. So it feels like our pool also helps keep people safe.
Yeah.
And not that I want to discourage people from using Vermont swimming holes. We have wonderful swimming holes, and I want them to use those too. But having the pool is great for little ones, and to have some kind of responsible oversight.
Huge asset to the parents of young children.
Yeah. No, we'll see.
Okay, well, I'll keep you updated on it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to the town manager's report.
Okay, so moving along. Sandglass Theater grant request update. Just to let you know, so we know the history. You know, they came to us in February. I tried to work with them to get the application packet together. I finally received it at 3:30 in the afternoon on April 8th. The grant, Josh, was due April 15th.
Right.
So I was not able to accommodate that deadline. And, you know, before I knew it, it was Wednesday, and they had sent me an email and asked if I was going to be able to complete it. And unfortunately, it didn't happen.
So and I saw the communication, and they sort of implied that they would just wait for the next round and go ahead in the next round. Is that, yeah?
That's what they had stated. So in the fall, now that I know what I'm looking at, and I can, you know, if I had like 3 weeks, I probably could have got it done, but that wasn't the case. So if they want to resubmit in the fall, I'll make sure that we pull it together, and we can be ready.
And you've communicated that to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's that. So dog complaints, running at large, and a reminder to license your dogs, please. So I've gotten some dog complaint calls, whether it's a barking dog or, you know, a dog just coming out of somebody's driveway and a walker, the dog comes towards the walker. I've talked to the person about it. We had another incident where a woman was walking a dog and the dog latched onto somebody's arm. They did not break the skin and the person did not seek any medical attention, but all of a sudden we have all these dog issues. We still have an animal control ordinance that's in draft format. And right now we can't get a public hearing pulled together to vote on that ordinance. So I'll watch the governor's orders and try to get that scheduled for the select board. I think it's important that the Animal Advisory Committee put a lot of work into it, and I think we should move it forward.
Agreed.
So I just wanted to mention that. Also, Laura, I want to mention that there are, let me see, 168 dogs that have been licensed. And then we have 121 that are unlicensed at this point.
Oy.
Yes.
Is that how different is that from other years in the past?
John seems to think that it's there's more this year, and he's done his due diligence. He's sent out 2 letters now, and I just want people to know that if I get a complaint on a dog and it's on the unlicensed list, I will be coming. I'm going to call you. So last year we had Jonathan. I had Jonathan send out certified letters.
Mm-hmm.
And people came in and they licensed their dogs. So
that's a lot of certified letters, though.
Please do the right thing and license your dog, because we don't know if your dog's not licensed, we don't know if it's up to date on its rabies certificate.
Mm-hmm.
If a dog bites somebody, especially a child, there's going to be bigger ramifications than paying like a $12 license fee.
Yes.
So please get your dog's license.
And just remind us, Karen, that can be done by phone and or by online, or just by phone, or? You
can call the town clerk's office. He's at extension 13. You can email Jonathan at clerk@putneyvt.org. Yeah, and all the reminders went out to everybody. So everyone on this 121 unlicensed dogs list has a notification, or 2, or maybe 3 at this time.
It seems like, go ahead. Go ahead, Josh.
No, go. All right.
I just wanted to say that from my small picture of the window of the world here, there's at least 4 or 5 times as many people with dogs walking as there normally are. My loop here, the Black Locust Road, Hickory Ridge Road loop, is a really popular loop. And there are so many people out walking with their dogs, and they need to be more responsible than ever, because there's so many, the possibility of encountering people and other dogs is so much higher now that people have the time on their hands and are walking.
Right.
So I've seen many near incidents from my driveway alone where dogs came together. They didn't know each other on unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
And, so hopefully people
And-
will do the thing.
What are the penalties for not licensing your dog?
All right, so back to having no enforcement.
Ah.
Okay, and that's part of the new draft ordinance, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
So without an animal control officer, which like a retired person would be really good, and we could issue tickets for fines. Okay. I have the books in my office, the tickets. But whoever writes a ticket, they're the one that has to go to court to defend that ticket.
And you have the right to write those tickets, though, don't you, Karen?
I do.
Okay. Not that you want to be running to court regularly, but
No, but what is the fine for an unlicensed dog?
yeah.
I think the first offense is like $50.
Yeah.
And then it goes up, I think the highest it could be like $100.
And remind me what the licensing fee is. My husband takes care of this, so I don't remember.
I don't know if I know, because if you have one dog and, males,
It's $14.
there you go.
Yeah.
So 14 versus 50 and
Right.
headaches. Yeah.
Maybe it ought to be more than 50. Maybe it ought to be enough so if you have to go to court, it covers some of your time. Maybe it ought to be enough so if someone does it once, they never do it again. I mean,
that's a good point, David, because
really, maybe it ought to be $250. Maybe it ought to be a bunch so people take it seriously.
yeah.
Well, that will
Maybe,
be
but
when we
if
can.
we don't have enforcement, and if we don't have any way to back that up, it doesn't matter what it is. And we also, if people don't know that fine exists, then it has no relevance in their life either. I think helping people to understand the importance of I hear what you're saying, David, and I tend to think that helping people to understand the importance of licensing their dog is probably the better route. But I hear what you're saying too.
Well, my biggest fear too is if a dog attacks a child,
Yeah.
that's a big concern. And it's like, just do the right thing, be a responsible animal owner, and it only takes 2 seconds. It's, you can mail your payment in, call Jonathan, he'll tell you what you owe. It's a pretty simple, responsibility. It doesn't have to be difficult.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the state has given us the right to forgive penalties for late licensure at this point, haven't they?
Correct.
Due to COVID.
Um,
Yes.
So even more incentive.
Am I remembering correctly that we did have that on the sandwich board for a period of time? And or do we still, and or should we if we don't?
Now there's something else on our sandwich board. It's
Eat local, buy local.
Farmers. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if we have other sandwich board opportunities, then maybe dog licenses should be included also.
Maybe we just need more sandwich boards. I say more sandwich boards.
I just need sandwiches. So.
We'll give you a sandwich if you license your dog.
I want to say I believe that the honor system and believing in people doing the right thing is basically how I think we should function. But I also think that there's going to be a certain percentage of the people who don't do the right thing, even though we put the information out there. And if there's going to be a consequence, it ought to be enough so that it covers any expense we have, Karen's time, and it's a fine big enough that people don't think, oh, well, what the hell, who cares? It's just $50. It ought to be enough so that it teaches a lesson, and then they run their mouth to all their friends, and then all their friends get their dogs licensed because it costs them some money. But
You know,
If
I
and
would be supportive of that. The question I have for that is there an opportunity for a hardship appeal? So,
Yes, of course. Of course.
I think that's a topic that should come up in the public hearing when we're looking at the dog ordinance.
Right.
mhm,
So Laura, just so you know too, so licensing your dog is an annual responsibility.
yeah,
And dog licensing is due by April 1st.
Right.
So, and I know this year has been a little bit tougher because of the COVID and the stay at
yeah,
home. I understand that, but there's still ways to get your dog licensed.
yeah. And as we said, the governor has given us the right to forgive penalties. So just mail in the $14 and the paperwork and get it done.
Yeah, call Jonathan. He'll give you the fee and you just mail it in. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
So that's enough of that. So requests for proposals, we have, Alyssa and I worked together this week. So we put out the heating oil and the propane request for proposal. And we've also put a proposal out for auditing services. So we're supposed to advertise every 3 years for the auditor. So that went out this year. We're working on mowing and landscaping. So mowing of all public spaces and cemeteries. Okay. So, and I'm going to look at that on a 3-year rotation. So it's going to be a 3-year contract versus, you know, putting it out to bid every year. Because that's kind of specialized. You know?
Does the cemetery commission, they do that separately though, don't they?
They do it separately because there's so many cemeteries and it's kind of a specialty because they got a weed whack and you know, all the headstones that they have to mow around. So it's a little different than just mowing like the town hall or the library or the fire station. So yeah, that's gonna be a little bit harder. I'm not gonna put them out together, Laura.
Okay.
So
We have bundled them before, and then last year the cemetery commission went ahead and contracted separate from us. So whether we want to do them as 2 separate RFPs or as a single, we could do, as long as we're not competing with our own cemetery commission to get bids.
That's why I was asking, because last year they,
well, all I can say too about the cemetery is the mowing costs more than what we appropriate to them. So I think we're going to need to look at that budget hard next fiscal year. So I'm putting it out to bid because I want to see what we can get for competitive prices.
And you have confirmed with the cemetery commission that they are not doing that also?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I've already talked to Jonathan. He's one of the commissioners, and Greg sent the contract to me. So they're all on board with it right now.
That's good.
And I think too, the cemetery, you know, we got a few complaints about, you know, headstones knocked down or chipped. So I know these people are in the business to make money. So the faster you get it done, you can move on to the next, you know, contract or the next property. And I'm kind of looking for somebody that's going to take a little more care when they're mowing the cemeteries, because those headstones, you know, they mean something to somebody. And when you go there and there's a chip out of a piece of granite, you know, you want to know why, you know, what happened. And I think care needs to be taken when they're mowing in the cemeteries. So I will keep you up to date on that. Of course, with landscape services and mowing, we got to get that out soon and get bids back. So you might see them in like probably a couple weeks, maybe. Alyssa, did we put a date on that? Yeah, like May 15th, right?
May 8th.
May
Does that
8th.
seem right?
Yeah.
No, 18th. Sorry, 18th.
Yeah, we might push that up.
It was Monday, May 18th.
Okay. So we still have time to get somebody, you know, contracted to get our lawns mowed and our gardens taken care of.
Historically, we've gotten sort of depressingly few responses to our proposals for that, but what it is.
I've found a few more that were never, I don't think they were ever
Solicited.
sent.
Yeah.
Yeah, solicited. So I've got a bigger list together. Still not very many, but I have so if you know of anybody that maybe I can't find online, let me know.
Whoops, Laura, you're muted for some reason. All right, she's back. The other request for proposal is going to be cleaning. So I'm going to put that out for some competitive bids as well. Again, like Alyssa mentioned, you know, cleaning, there's not a whole lot of companies out there, but I just want to see what we can bring in and see if we have some competitive prices.
And what I had said about the mowing also holds true for the cleaning, and I don't think you heard the mowing, was that they all need to be insured, and that's a part of what might limit the pool for us a bit.
Right. Yep.
They also need to have workers' comp if they have employees.
Right. So Broadband Communication Union District Development. Because there's a lot going on right now, and we can put this right on the table too. So Deerfield Valley has created a communication union district. There are 7 towns that have joined that district. They are Wilmington, Halifax, Marlborough, Reedsboro, Stratton, Wardsboro, and Whitingham. So, as you know, we have a grant to do. We did the survey. We got some pretty good results. They're moving forward with a feasibility study, and then they're going to come up with the business plan. And all of this should be done by August, okay? At this point, I want to let the select board know that any town right now can join any communication union district at this point. And, you know, so we can do that now if we choose to do it now. But my recommendation is that we allow Wyndham Regional to continue getting data and then deciding on what to do.
Is there any advantage to us joining now versus later? Is there any penalty to joining later? I mean, why are people joining now, I guess, is my question.
There is no penalty, Laura. So what has to happen after the business plan is in place? And I don't know how far Deerfield Valley has gotten. They're having meetings, and I have not been privy to them because I just learned all of this. This is all brand new, okay? So I don't know where they're at in the process. So once you've created that district, so you have to put a RFP out for providers, to come in and give you the service. Okay, so that's like laying the fiber and then providing the service on, the particular plans that people buy into.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm not quite sure about that end of things because we're still in the front part of this process. So I just can't answer too many questions because it's still all new and it's still evolving.
Karen,
Yes.
you said the 7 towns. Can you name them again? I didn't type fast enough.
Oh, sorry. Wilmington, Halifax, Marlborough, Reedsboro, Stratton, Wardsboro, and Whitingham.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So once the RFP is out, Laura, and then the costs come in,
Mhm.
then the district decides, who that service provider will be. So right now we know that it's $18,000 per mile, through EC Fiber to lay the fiber. Okay. So somebody like maybe Consolidated Communications could lay it for $10,000 per mile.
Mhm.
So that's part of this whole process.
Mhm.
But again, you can have more than one communication union district too. And yes, we could join this one that's already created. But I mean, it's not going to hurt us to wait and see what the feasibility study and the business plan looks like. And, we may get that plan and it may be, higher than what this new district might have. So.
Yeah, just geographically, it doesn't make sense to align ourselves, in my opinion, with that group of towns that has already formed a district. But
Right, because I think too, Josh, if you look at, those towns right there, somehow you got to run that fiber over to, the lower section.
yeah.
So I just don't know, Laura. I don't have enough answers to, be clear on how it's going to set itself up. Wyndham Regional Commission is trying to set up a meeting for May. It's probably going to be a virtual meeting, and they're going to update us, okay? So they're my lead with this whole communication union district. They agree that, it's good that a district has formed because now it allow other towns to join just through a select board approval. And that was part of that resolution too, the work with Wyndham Regional.
I guess I'm curious, like, you said that we could form more than one district within the region. Is that what we're being geared towards, or is it going to be one large district? Or we just don't know at this point?
We don't know at this point, but it potentially could be one big district.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm certainly not adverse to aligning with those towns if we're forming one big district, but I wouldn't want to see us try to align with the Pioneer Valley District and then have a Connecticut Valley District formed.
Yeah.
And That just doesn't make. So I think until the Wyndham Regional Commission has done their work and we really know what the possibilities are, we just wait it out for now.
Yeah, and
Keep in mind,
it's not going to
as
hurt.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you were sort of alluding, Laura, if at some point there's an incentive or a reason to do it sooner rather than later, then yes. But at this point, that there doesn't seem to be a clear benefit of doing that. So I think we wait it out.
Yeah, I don't think we should jump right in. I'm not confident that's the right move.
Yeah.
And I think aspirationally, we're supportive of this process. We want to see this happening, and but we need to know all of the details before we make any commitment on behalf of this town.
Correct.
Okay.
So highway department update. So all the dirt roads in Putney, except for 2, which were not that bad, have been graded. So I just want to share that with everyone. So they've all been done once already. So Brian's been running trucks. They've been trucking sand. And they've also been helping Dummerston. They do it every year. So they get sand and they bring it over to the Dummerston Highway Department. So they've been doing that. They've been busy. And right now, the governor, with his restrictions for the highway department, it's possible that we might be able to get signage taken care of now, Laura. Brian and I have had a conversation about the fence at the end of the sidewalk. So we're going to come up with a solution about that, and I've asked him, it needs to get taken care of.
I'm curious, is that section vital? Does it have to be there? Because from what I saw in community conversation, it's going to be very difficult for any plow truck to be able to move snow in the winter and not hurt something that's there. And so.
Yes, something has to be there because that is a steep drop off.
Okay.
Once you get beyond that rock. So Brian and I talked about maybe having something that we can remove in the wintertime. So snow can get plowed between the rock and the tree right there. The other thing too is for many years, debris like leaves and brush and that kind of stuff has been dropped over there. And Saluzzi did a really good job of cleaning it up. And what I don't want to see over there is people dumping leaves and debris, because it's just going to make it a mess. And there's some over there right now. And
people are actually bringing their leaves and debris and dumping it over.
They used to do that before. So, yeah. And there's footprints over there. I was over there this week and I looked and I'm like, somebody's bringing leaves over here. And I'm like, oh no. And it's like, so I just don't want to have it. The grass is growing right next to the rock right now too. So I want to keep it clean. And, so we have a right of way. So we have like 25 feet. And then the state has that whole bank where all the rocks are. The state has that as a right of way. So, it's clean right now. Let's keep it clean.
There are several places around town, Laura, where that occurs historically and ongoing. Hard to enforce when we don't have enforcement. Right. It's also hard, people back a pickup in at, whenever.
3 in the morning.
6 o'clock.
Right.
Or 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and it's what it is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Brian and I will work on getting the fence up there. It'll be, spring, summer, and fall. And then we'll take it down, and then, so the fence doesn't get wrecked again during snow season. But other than that, they're staying busy. The only time they're not working is if it's raining, because they're usually home. But everybody's been healthy, and they're adhering to protocol for COVID. So.
Good.
One other item I wanted to bring up is digitizing the land records. And I know we've talked about this in our emergency preparedness meetings. I was on a conference call today, a virtual meeting, and John Gannon was on that call. And he is pushing for town clerks to get their land records digitized for this reason with the COVID. So if everything was online, your attorneys, your title researchers, your appraisers, they can still do some work.
Mhm.
The fact that no one can go into, the town clerk's office, and right now the governor has lifted some restrictions with the town clerk. So appraisers and attorneys and title researchers now can start going to the town office and doing some work. It will be a case-by-case basis in Putney. People will have to come in, sign in, wash their hands, first wash their hands, sign in, sign out. They will have to have a mask, and they will have to have their own gloves. So hopefully, most of the time, people will come in and they'll get a grand tour and a grantee list, and they know what they're looking for right off. So they can usually print it from the computer to the copier, but anyone touching anything in the office, it'll have to be washed right after as well. So we are lacking disinfecting wipes, but Alyssa scored today with Staples. So we have some of those come in. We have sanitizer in the office. And anyone coming into the office, it's going to be limited because it'll be the town clerk and one other person. So Tuesday and Thursdays is when the town clerk's office is open, or that's when Jonathan is there. I won't say it's open, but the town clerk is physically at town hall on Tuesday and Thursday.
Is it by appointment only?
It will be by appointment only.
Okay. Can I offer just an observation? If you're having folks bring in their own gloves and they're washing their hands and then putting on gloves, if you're not sure that this is a new pair of gloves, they could be using a pair that has been used over and over and over again, and the gloves could actually be more harmful than their bare hands.
Okay,
So I would suggest either supplying gloves or asking folks to really wash their hands well when they come in, and then disinfecting everything afterwards and ditch the gloves idea altogether.
Okay.
It's probably not an idea to have them wash their hands and then sanitize them as well.
Yeah. Do you have plenty of sanitizer?
Yes.
Hand sanitizer? Okay.
Yeah. And I know Tom has a lot because he would get some from Bar Hill, and then he got a 5-gallon drum of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to probably be the criteria, and I don't know when that may start. The difficulty, Laura and Josh, is that you can have somebody come in to do research. It might take somebody 15 minutes, but it might take somebody all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's going to be difficult to schedule by appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now it's more of an emergency than it is a convenience. So
It's also hard to.
Yeah, I'm going to monitor that and figure out what's going to work best.
And
Jonathan's also pretty confident that he can get most of, what people need to them.
Yeah.
Good. Wearing a mask all day is hard, especially if you're not used to it, and depending on the kind of mask you have. And so it may be something you want to keep a few masks at town hall too, in case somebody shows up without one.
Well, if they don't come with one, they're not coming in. Sorry.
Yeah.
We have limited supply in our office, and I'm not willing to give them out. If you're going to come to Putney Town Hall, you need to be prepared and have, your mask. I'm sorry. And again, like Alyssa said, Jonathan can help people, and, he can get them the information that they request, and then we just invoice them.
And at the same time, if people don't have masks, that means that they're out in public without masks. And if we have a way to source them and provide them, the more people we're getting masks onto, the better off we all are. So I don't know if I would just turn people away that didn't have masks. I think I would try and find a way to get masks so that we can give them out.
Masks are not easy to come by.
I know, Alyssa.
They are running about $50 for 25 to 50 of them, depending on where you can find them. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I am very, very aware of what the mask situation looks like. And
terrible.
I will say that there are many people out there that are sewing them and willing to provide them for organizations, including towns, if we were to get ourselves on the list. And I know Josh also was able to acquire some, and maybe it's something that we put in town hall. I feel pretty strongly that we need to make sure that we're getting them onto people's faces. And if these are people we're dealing with regularly and people that are a part of our community, then I think it's really important that we're making the effort, even though it's expensive and hard. And that said, there is a community sourced list of people that are sewing many, many masks, and we have been able to fill our need entirely at Groundworks. And every time I put out a community ask, I've been able to get them. So I could put out a community ask for town hall and probably come up with 50 for you in a very short period of time.
I think the other thing is, though, Laura, that this is not the people who are coming in to research these things are not typically folks who are coming in. I mean, it's on an emergency basis. And I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm happy. I mean, I have boxes of masks if you want to have a box of masks there. But I do think that the clientele who are coming in for the purpose of researching records are more likely than not people who are coming in to do that as a commercial, they're researching real estate things, stuff like that. I don't think that's an unfair burden to place on them. I agree that there are some people who, if you were coming in because you needed to research a death certificate for your spouse or whatever, and you couldn't get a mask, then we should provide them. But I don't think that's the typical ask for why somebody's coming in.
And we're not letting anybody else come in for any other reason.
Right.
Because they can be helped on the phone and be sent what they're needed. Like, we're not going to let people come in to pay their utility bill. They can drop it in the box or mail it. They're not coming in until everything is said and done.
I understand that. I think having an extra supply of masks isn't a bad idea. And if somebody shows up without one, that's unfortunate, and we can help educate them and get one on their face. So the more people that have them, the better off we all are. It's not about, it's really about all of us. It's protecting us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, but I think that I don't think it's unreasonable. I mean, I've been surprised at the number of businesses that are doing business and allowing people in. I mean, there's a statewide order that you have to wear masks if you're out in public. And I realize there's a shortage as well, so that's not easy. But
There's
I think
not that actually, no, there's not. I mean, I'm sorry to correct you, but I believe that the statewide order is, it's suggested that anybody's that's out in public wear a
right,
mask. Anybody that's doing business has to be wearing a mask at this point.
but as we're seeing, a lot of people aren't doing that. So
Right.
Oh, I hear you. I've had a whole frustration with it last week, and
yeah, no, I mean, I think that, yeah, I agree with your sentiment completely that we need to get masks on as many people as we can. I think that if somebody who's coming in doing business can't provide their own mask, then sorry, we're not going to provide. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's sort of a philosophical difference. If you're coming in and you know you need a mask,
Right.
then you need a mask. That's what it is. And that should not be our responsibility to provide somebody in that situation with a mask. I think we should have as many masks as possible available to anybody who wants one, who can't afford one or otherwise acquire one. But if it's part of your business, you got to find yourself a mask. I mean, I don't think that should be our responsibility.
but how do you decide that? How do you decide who can afford them and who can source them, and how are you
Yeah.
deciding that?
No, I think you're right, Josh. I mean, if they're an attorney or a title researcher or an appraiser coming in to the town clerk's office, like anyone else, like us, Laura, they're doing business. They're going into a public building and they should be prepared. We're not talking about like, a resident coming in, I mean, like Alice Mays, if she had to come down, I'm sure she'd have a mask on. I'm sorry, but it's like these are business people in the public. And so that's what I'm meaning by if they don't have a mask, then they can't enter the building, But we would tell them that too before they came because it's
Right.
by appointment only. So,
Okay.
yeah. So
I
it's
think we all agree with the sentiment that everybody should be wearing masks, but
right.
I don't go anywhere without my mask on, and that's because I'm accepting responsibility for that. I realize there are people who can't do that, and but I don't think that's the group of people that we're talking about. I think, and you're right, that's tricky. I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, maybe we have masks there. I would much rather have masks available to the public and through some venue other than town hall, because I don't think that's necessary. I mean, can we provide masks to people? Yes, I dropped 1,000 off at the food shelf the other day. Can they go to Tom to get one? I just don't think we should facilitate that. I don't think that's our responsibility in this context. If somebody's coming to us for the purpose of doing business, it's not our responsibility to provide them a mask.
That would be like Shaw's having to give me a mask because I don't
I
have
think
one.
I think that there are. I mean, okay. We're not Shaw's, we're the town hall, and I think that we're supposed to hold people a little bit better, but I'm not. That's fine.
It's okay, Laura. I understand where you're coming from and I get it. And so it's not like we're going to have like 10 people right off anyway. So we can manage this, okay?
Hmm.
And
So this is what I have to say. I have masks because I'm responsible. And I'm so grateful that you offered me one the other day, Laura. Both things are right. Both things are right.
I don't know.
All right.
I mean,
Well, I think it would be responsible for us to have some extras and to be able to offer it. And whatever a person's reason for showing up without it, whether it was a mistake or something happened, I don't know. But I
We
think
do
it would be
have some.
responsible. Okay.
We do
So,
have some. We just don't have boatloads of them to give to every single person who may or may not want one.
and as it's been
Not gonna be the
pointed
reality.
out, that we won't have boatloads of people showing up to town hall, but
Right.
Right.
So,
Should
and
be
you know,
fine.
yeah, and another thing too, Laura, if we have a soft opening and we still require a mask, you know, there may be a shortage at some point, you know, because they're not easily available right now. So
I hear what you're saying. I think masks are going to be a part of our lifestyle for quite a while.
I agree with
You
you.
know?
I honestly
Yeah.
agree with you because I'm shopping online and buying ours, you know, and I know Alyssa's family's made them, and you know, you're absolutely right. I think we're all going to be wearing masks for a while. Period.
And I think the other thing that sort of, as David was saying, I think that we are happy as a town and as a municipality to provide a mask to somebody who is in need of a mask.
Right.
I think that sort of offering that to people who are in need, and I totally again get what you're saying about how do we determine that. But I think that, you know, we're asking, I guess maybe, yes, we should have masks there for people if they can't get a mask, and we provide it. And we, of course, don't ask them what their reason for that is. But if we're allowing people to come to town hall for our services, it should be incumbent upon them, if they are able to provide their own mask. If they're not able to, then I guess you're right. We should provide it. But I think we're just coming at this from different angles, and you work with a clientele for who the circumstances are very different, and I can understand why that sort of sentiment comes with it. But I think that we also, as David pointed out, people who are being responsible need to be responsible too. We can't say, oh, hey, you didn't bring a mask? Well, here's one. I mean, we can, but I don't think that's our job, really. And I think it goes both ways. So.
Can I go backwards here for a second? Didn't this conversation start about digitizing the records?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
I don't know. We just spent half an hour talking about masks.
So
what are we doing to digitize the records? Are we doing anything? Is there a plan? How much is it going to cost? Are we
yes.
required to, or is it just a suggestion?
No, it's. I have Jonathan working with towns to get prices to see what they're using for formats, and we talked about it regarding, you know, if anything ever happened to town hall, you know, how would you get to land records? So it's very important, and the state of Vermont is pushing all municipalities to consider digitizing land records. And the thing too, David, I want to comment is that if our land records were digitized right now, somebody coming into our office who didn't have a mask, they wouldn't need to, because they could get that information online. And
Okay, so
there's a means to pay for the copies too online. So one, it's efficient, and two, it's, you know, it'll reach anyone that needs to. They can just jump online and get what they're looking for. It's gonna make things a lot better.
I think it's a great idea, but as of yet, it's still just a suggestion. We're not required to do it, so we're not pushed up against a time frame yet, and we don't even know how much it will cost. But we do know there's companies that can do it for us. Didn't we talk
Correct.
about this a little bit last year? It was
Yep.
a little short. I thought we did. Anyway.
Yeah, and we have a significant budget for that purpose. Every year, a budget, there is allocation from state money, I believe, towards digitization of records. So we've got 80 some odd thousand bucks, as I recall, for
Yeah,
this.
it's built significantly, but we spent some of it down recently too.
Yeah.
Not a significant amount, but
I can tell you, we have $85,010.98 in the Records Restoration Fund. The state increased the recording fees so people could put the money into the restoration fund to do things like digitizing the land records.
And do we have any idea what it will cost to do it?
I don't have any idea yet. I just had Jonathan start doing this process. What's important for this process to work is that people can pay online, not have our office invoicing people.
Got it.
So if they want to go online and print records or just even look at them, there has to be a means for them to pay for it. And like Brattleboro has a system, and you pay with a credit card, and then you can print what you need. So it's no different than somebody physically coming into the office. So.
Yep. No, I think it's a great idea. I think the sooner we do it, the better. I think the whole broadband study is probably more important now because of COVID than ever. I think there's so many things that need to happen that way. I don't know anything about them. That's why I'm asking all these questions. And so.
No, we're looking at it, and I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So that's all I have.
okay. Thank you, Karen.
You're
We're going to do warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Hang on a minute, because I'm like.
There was one thing. I did have a question. So.
About the warrants?
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, too late.
Go for it. No, go for it. Ask the question.
I'm kidding.
Who are we giving $51,000 to? That's what I wanted to know.
Can we wait until I read the warrant and then I can explain to you?
Perfect. That'd be lovely.
Yes. All right. So we're going to do payroll warrant dated April 24th, 2020 in the amount of $15,027.85. Hello?
Hello?
Josh?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read that again?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I looked them over.
Okay. So that's payroll warrant. And then, so do you want to pass that one, or you want to do both of them together?
Well, we already approved. We don't have to. We just have to sign them. We've already approved based on review. So as long as there aren't questions on review, all we have to do is sign them. We've already done the.
So accounts payable warrant dated April 11th through April 24th, 2020 in the amount of $87,147.98.
The answer to you is it's a bond payment, David.
It is a bond payment. It's for the fire station and the water sewer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for telling me that.
Is there anything else that you guys noticed? Do you have any questions?
No.
Look good.
Okay, so Laura There's a copy of each warrant in your mailbox at the office.
Great.
So if you want to go ahead and sign that, and then David and Josh can stop in at any time and sign them.
Can
And
take care of it tomorrow morning.
what's the required time frame on that, Karen? Is there a required, I mean, you know, I forgot, as you will maybe recall, last time I forgot to come in and sign them until Monday morning. Does that,
Right.
that doesn't hold, I mean, as long as they have Laura's signature, they've been authorized to be issued. So I mean, obviously I'm not going to ask to come in 2 weeks later, but as long as it's within a few days, that's fine, right?
So, yeah, as long as there's one signature. Now, you can vote, make a motion to assign one person to sign
We
the
already-
warrant.
We already did that too. We did that for the duration of the COVID.
Okay. So as long as she comes in and signs them, it should be tomorrow, Laura.
I can do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And then we can release the checks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other business? Anybody?
don't. No.
Anybody?
I will, Laura, I will make sure that I still have some of the masks in my possession. I will make sure that we get some to town hall so that they are available for those who need them. I guess in doing that, and I'm happy to do that, however we can best distribute them as obviously the intent. I also would strongly encourage anybody who's coming to town hall to bring their own mask if they are able to.
I totally agree with that sentiment. And I think it's important that we're able to support if there is, for whatever reason, somebody isn't able to.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I appreciate that. Thank you. We need an executive session, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion to enter executive session under Title I VSA 313(3), the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, providing that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public official or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reason for its final decision during the open meeting?
So moved.
And seconded.
We have to shut off recording now. Great. So we left executive session. No decision was made. We are going to meet again to have further conversations. And our next meeting date is May 6th, 2020. That is our special COVID meeting, and that begins at 5 p.m. Is that correct? No.
That's a regular meeting.
That's our regular meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
So our COVID meeting is
29th, I think, right?
the 29th at 5 o'clock. And then our regular meeting is May 6th at 5:30.
You got it.
And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any conversation?
No.
Hearing no conversation. We are adjourned. So thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone.